officially started at the beginning of November with the coaching with Linda.
Right.
And I did not start any medication until January. I am on Zepbound, 5 milliliters or milligrams. I think I've hit a little bit of a plateau over the last couple weeks, which is fine and understandable. And I was talking with Priscilla in our group coaching a couple weeks ago, and she was giving us tips about that. So that was super helpful. But overall, I have lost 30 pounds and I'm halfway to my goal. I was talking with Priscilla about it too. It's like the non-scale victories as well have been super noticeable. So, my clothing is fitting very, very differently. I've had to dig out some old clothing from my closet. I've bought some new clothing, which has been nice. People that don't see me regularly, like my dad, he saw me on FaceTime a couple weeks ago and he's like, whoa, what have you been up to? What, you've lost a whole bunch of weight. And the same when I saw my brother and sister-in-law at the end of April. So none of them knew that I was on this journey. I tend to keep all of that sort of private. And it was nice that they noticed as well. I just feel more comfortable in myself. I feel more like myself again, which is nice. I've spoken about it that a lot of the weight that I gained so rapidly was due to grief. I lost my mom and during the pandemic, not because of the pandemic, but during the pandemic. And so it was like a culmination of work stress, the grief stress, being in the pandemic and just eating far too much bread and not having boundaries and not really caring. And so I am back now to pre-pandemic weight and a little bit less because I track everything in my FitnessPal. I have for almost 10 years at this point. So I can go back and mark okay, I'm the weight that I was at this point in time in 2018. And I remember how I felt, and I felt really good about myself, and I'm feeling that same way. I feel like myself again. I'm not uncomfortable in my skin, which is nice. The different coaching styles too, I think has been interesting for me as well. Linda was a lot more of it was a lot more nurturing, and that's what I needed at that point because that's where I was getting started and I was kind of unsure about what I was doing, and I was still working through a lot of grief and stress, and it all kind of was this. I was this big bundle of nerves and not sure about what to do. And so starting with Linda and taking the approach of let's nurture this for a little bit. Let's get through the stress and the breathing and meditation, and let's work on those kind of tools and not so much focus on the weight loss side of things or the nutrition or the exercise or anything, but just let's focus on you as a person was great for me. Because that really got me into journaling and figuring out my vision. We did a lot of journaling, breath work, meditation, that kind of thing to sort of just ground me and center me so that then I really could start the journey and start the medication prepared to be in tune with myself. I think if I had started where I initially thought that I wanted to be, which was with more hardcore nutrition tips and exercise and all of that, I don't think I would have responded to it because it would have been almost overwhelming to me. Stepping in and working with Linda in that nurturing manner, kind of centering and grounding myself first. I lost 7 pounds before I started the medication just from that experience during the holidays, during Thanksgiving and Christmas. The tools and things being consistent and drinking in the water, there's still things I have to work on. There are absolutely, but I do feel like I have a much better foundation and much more awareness because I didn't have that before. I felt like I was kind of walking through the world on autopilot and just too frazzled to even pause and start. And that's why I think the work with Linda was really good for me as a foundation. and then continuing to do the journaling. Still need to get better at my breath work and like pausing. So I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of the water. You know, I haven't mastered all the tools, but I know that they're there for me. Starting the medication, I started it in January and was on it for about a month, then had a blip with my insurance, was off of it for a month. And during that month was really leaning back onto the things that I had learned with Linda to try and not regain anything, and then was able to start back up on the medication in March. And I think that's also when I started with Priscilla in the group coaching as well. Her approach, and I really enjoy the small group with Susan. So there's only 3 in our group, and I think the benefit of having a very small group is that Susan and I have been able to relate to each other and support each other with Priscilla's guidance. And I think that has worked really well too, because Susan and I are very similar. We both like to do Pilates. We both have struggled with the same types of things. We both have supported each other in that she now has an Aura ring. I just bought the same scale she bought. So we're learning from each other, which has been really great. And when she's not able to join, or if I'm not able to join, then it turns into a one-on-one with Priscilla for 30 minutes, which has been good too. And Priscilla has been great because she'll bring a PowerPoint presentation with a topic, right? Or we'll have a group conversation, even if there's not a PowerPoint. We'll watch videos together, but there's topics that are about the tools. So we've learned about plateaus, we learned about exercise snacks, we've gone through nutrition, we've gone through the importance of drinking water. And it's been very good to have that concrete information at this point in the journey, because that's where has helped with like energy, and I look forward to the group because I know I'm going to get something out of it. It's not just going to be the same old thing. In the past, right, I've done Jenny Craig, I've done Nutrisystem, I've tried all the things. And the components of Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem with the coaching were things that always turned me away. And I said this to Priscilla last week, because to me it felt like I was sometimes being admonished for things that I did not do correctly on those programs. And I've never felt that way in this program, ever. Because like with Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem, you had to go to your coaching and you had to do your once a week, and there was a checklist. And if you weren't doing all the things on the checklist, then I always left those meetings feeling like, okay, well, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And then it's my motivation would get stalled, and then my weight loss would get stalled. And I don't ever feel that way here. It's always been very motivational. It's always been very encouraging. And even if there is information that says, oh, well, you should have maybe tried something different, that's how it's presented. It's, well, maybe next time try this. It's never, oh, you didn't do that right. One of the things that, when I first started this, I was hesitant about the coaching because my previous experiences had been like that. It's been vastly different, thankfully. And it's been beneficial as a result. I feel better equipped now than I did before to even deal with that, because I'm not like drowning my sorrows in food. That's been very helpful for me. The other thing that has been a good day-to-day reminder to me too is, it's interesting, when I started the medication, I never understood when people talked about food chatter. Like, I never thought I had it, ever. And to notice how different it is and realize, yeah, I guess I did have food chatter. And there's always noise in my head thinking about, okay, well, I got to eat now, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. Like, just thinking about food, and I don't think about it now. And so that has been super helpful for me to have that awareness. and remember what like satiety feels like, because I always felt like I knew, but I think the threshold has changed for me, and so still getting used to it. Sometimes I notice feeling full feels different than it did before, and I have to remember what that feels like and that it's a lower threshold, so that when I'm not on the medication anymore, I recognize it. And so I'm trying to be more aware of that right now, so that I have that self-control, that it turns into self-control, I guess is the best way. So I think that's the next thing that I want to kind of work on, is figuring out how to recognize those feelings of food noise and feeling full, so that when I do go off the medication, I don't forget it and I understand how to control that. I've always logged all of my food in MyFitnessPal and my weight in MyFitnessPal. I've just been doing it probably since 2011. I've been doing it. And there were periods of time when I was going through that deep grief where I didn't log anything at all. Good, bad, nothing. Like I didn't log anything. And for me now, I log everything. Whether it's a good choice or a bad choice, I'm logging it all. I'm very data driven, so I can see, okay, well, I didn't have as good of a day eating. I'm going to probably feel not so great tomorrow or the next day, because my body's going to have to work harder to process that different food that I ate that wasn't a good choice. And I'm probably going to see my weight go up a pound because it's trying to, get rid of it and all those things. So I'm really looking at how my body is responding to the decisions that I'm making, so that then the next day or that same day I can make different decisions. And it's fun for me to do it that way, because I can tweak it and get to know what works for me and what doesn't work for me by looking backwards at that data. I'm not good at meal planning. I will say that I'm not good. I'm probably never going to be good at meal planning as much as I would strive to. But I can look at the data and be like, okay, well, I've had this many calories for the day, or I've eaten this type of food for the day. My next meal needs to be this. And that's about as planful as I can be, is what's the next thing I'm going to eat. And I think it gives me the flexibility that I need to, because I'm not very good at the pre-planning for like 4 days or a week. I'm never going to be. I'm a project manager, but I can't seem to project manage that part of my life. Every morning I get on the scale, I log my weight, I think about what I'm going to eat, I log my water. As the day is moving forward, I'm like, okay, well, I've only got, let's say 300 calories left. All right, what is that meal going to look like? Oh, it's going to be brown rice and vegetables. Perfect. It makes sense to me that way. I'm excited to, I've got the MyFitnessPal. I do wear my Oura ring. I've been wearing it for, it may be 2 years this August. I don't even notice it anymore, because I wear it and I look at the data every morning. And now they've introduced glucose monitoring. And so I'm kind of curious. I want to do that to see what other data do I learn about my metabolism and figure out where I go from there. So that's probably one of the next things that I'll add on to my Oura ring, is that kind of monitoring. They use the Dexcom Stelo, which is the non-prescription over-the-counter one, and they recommend that you do, I think the Stelo is wearable for 10 days. They recommend that you do 2 rounds of that to get the data in there, and they've added meal planning into the Oura app as well. So the combination of the glucose monitoring with the meal, they are indicating that you can get metabolic insights. Thank you for giving us the framework to work within, because without it, it would just be, it wouldn't be doable, honestly. I think it would be overwhelming, and the way that the coaches work with everybody is very personalized, even in the small group coaching. Still feels very personal.